Hello, my name is Fernando Fernandez, and I'm a technical architect specialized in Salesforce and data integrations. Today, I want to present a project that I participated a few years ago that caused a big impact for my client. It's not every day that the project that you worked on is presented on the company's earnings call, and then some other company recommends the stock because of that project. So let's start. I'm going to share my screen. So the theme of this project is finding the best insurance deal for the customers. This was my client was an insurance company that's traded on the stock market, and they started with this project for helping their agents find the best insurance deal for their customers that they had on the phone, where they were talking with on the phone. So it started customer focused. So as you can see in the next slide, the customer, when a customer starts shopping for insurance, it's a big challenge because there are nearly hundreds of different insurance carriers. They can go talk with each one and try to get a quote from them, but it's too many, so they cannot realistically find the best insurance quote. The next option for them, instead of talking with the insurance companies directly, is to use online comparison sites. But the problem with that is that those sites, most likely, they will sell your data. So it's not, they ended up having a lot of spam or uh, being flooded with insurance calls, which is not desirable. Now, the last option is to contact an independent agency. However, the problem with that is that they have to feed the agency with a lot of data, very particular information, such as distance to the hydrant. Um, Probably nobody knows how distant their house is from the next hydrant. So those are the problems uh, that the person shopping for insurance can have. So the ideal is to replace all that with a tool or a platform that allows the customer or the consumer to find the best insurance for them. They should enter very few data points and then get a quick quote from the insurance carriers. Now, here's how the app looks like. More or less, I'm trying to not publish private information from the client. This is just a mock-up of what I created while working on that project. As you can see, there are several tabs to collect different information in regards to what the customer is trying to insure. It started with home and auto first. Later, they decided to implement flood insurance. And let me show the mock-up live. This is the mock-up. I just created a Lightning Web component just to show how it operates. So they start asking the customer basic data such as name and birth date, and then they go through those tabs and enter data about the property, what coverage they desire, who are the drivers, the vehicles, the coverage, and then a last step to review for missing data, required data. and then they click submit quote request, and then they get back the quotes. And this is just the user interface for a lot of data integrations that are going on behind the scenes. Let me show this slide here. This is how it looks like. This is public information. I got this from a video the client published. So we're safe in that regard. This is just showing the quote results screen that it contacted all the carriers and fetched those quotes. And it's sorted by premium. So the smallest premium is at the top, so they can get the most affordable. Now, how this looks like behind the scenes. So the agent will use Salesforce, is logged into Salesforce, and it will have the app running on the screen. As they enter data from the customer, there are some API calls that are made to CoreLogic to get property information. It will retrieve things like square footage, type of roof, how long ago the roof was replaced, and things like that. Distance to the hydrant. And another call is made to LexisNexis to get personal information such as drivers, vehicles, driver's license, things like that. Who's the property owner as well. And then this helps the wizard populate the default data that's going to be submitted to the carriers. Now, as the quote request is completed, meaning that the agent has entered all the customer data, he clicks submit quote request. Salesforce will then call the Boomi API to notify the integration process that the quote is ready to be requested. So then this first phase was implemented in Boomi. Boomi is an integration platform. Boomi then queries Salesforce, fetches the quote request with all the customer data and coverage, and then reformats that quote request as an XML file. This XML file is a standard adopted by insurance companies. It's called Accord standard. It's a huge XML file with a lot of elements that insurance carriers are supposed to understand. So Boomi submits the XML to the carrier APIs. Each carrier will have a different API. There are differences between the carriers' APIs, so that has been taken into account when implementing this integration. The first one we implemented was Safeco because that was the company, the insurance company that was most willing to help us in that regard. Later, some others were implemented as well, but Safeco was the first one. After Safeco receives the quote request, it calculates the quote, the premiums, and then returns to Boomi. Boomi then saves that quote response into Salesforce. So there are two parts. When Salesforce sends the quote request, it saves the quote request record and then calls Boomi to notify that the quote request exists. Then it waits. Back then, it was 2017, we created a Visualforce page that kept pulling the quote response object to see if there were new records and put them on the screen. So meanwhile, Boomi was submitting the quote request to the carrier APIs, then wait for the carrier response. When the carrier responded, then it would create a quote response record in Salesforce with that data. And then the Visual Force page would then display that new quote response from that carrier. And it would display the logo and the premium with a link to the actual code in the other system. Now, this was the initial phase, the initial implementation. It was just to help agents serve their customers better. Now, the next phase was to implement a customer-facing site in Heroku. Heroku would then do what Salesforce was doing. It would collect data directly from the customer, do the call outs to the data APIs to autofill some fields. For example, a customer would go to the website, type first name and birth date, then automatically Heroku would call LexisNexis to fetch property owner information, vehicle, all the residents at that address. And then the next step, the customer would type the address, and then Heroku would then call the CoreLogic API to fetch property address. And then after Heroku collected all the relevant information, it would then call MuleSoft instead of Boomi. So initially they started with Boomi because the price, Boomi is was more affordable. So this was kind of a pilot project. They wanted to make sure all this integration was something feasible before committing into a greater investment, which is MuleSoft. So later they implemented, on phase 2, they implemented MuleSoft with Heroku for the customer-facing website and agent platform. Now, much of the logic that was implemented in Boomi was reused in MuleSoft. So it was not a lost investment when they decided to opt for Boomi initially. So today, they are using this platform, this architecture to serve their customers directly and not just as initially they did with agents. Now, there are big benefits from the initial steps. So in the initial development, as soon as this agent tool was implemented, the CTO communicated to us that previously they hired a new agent and trained that agent to be productive in 3 months. Now, after this platform was open to the agents for use, they are now being productive in 3 weeks. So that's a huge advantage that the client obtained. Next, let me say, this was an effort initiated in 2017. 2018, we finished most of this wizard. Now, some carrier integrations were implemented later because that's a long-term effort to be able to integrate each and every of those carriers that you see on the screen. They have different APIs. Although they are supposed to use the same Accord XML, they do have differences between them. So that's a long-term effort. Now, after 2018, they kept implementing other integrations with different carriers. In 2020, they implemented flood insurance into this wizard. And after they done that, they reported on their earnings call that there has been a 50% increase in sales for flood insurance, and they credit it partially to this new flood insurance being available in this platform. Let's see. The next effort was to create the Heroku-based customer-facing app or website. It's a mobile compatible website. So you can see here, this is public information. They did show this on a video, on several videos and on their earnings call to the shareholders. So this is showing how the Heroku site looks like from the perspective of a customer. So the customer receives a QR code or a link from the agent, or they can just go to the insurance company website, and then they will find this dialogue, and they will respond to those questions. And when they finish entering data, it will display the best quotes from the carriers. As you can see here, Berkshire Hathaway, Nationwide, there are other carriers, but those are the ones they showed on the example for home and auto insurance. So now in 2021, that was the year when this was released to the public, the direct to consumer platform. It put them in a privileged position in the marketplace because there's nothing like this. No other insurance company has such a nice tool for the customers to be able to enter their own data and obtain quotes almost instantly. I think it takes at least less than 2 minutes to get the first quote. And then once they get a quote, they can contact an agent to be able to provide more information, receive advice, or to issue the policy. Now, the effort to create more integrations with new carriers is ongoing. It's a very long-term effort. Now, there are other opportunities that this initiative, this new direct-to-consumer and the old Wizard platform, they open the door for new opportunities. Now, one of the opportunities is co-branding. So they can expose this website inside of another website of another company. So let's say there's a mortgage broker or a mortgage servicer that signs an agreement with this company, with this insurance company, to be able to embed this digital direct-to-consumer platform inside their own website. So let's say a customer decides to sign a mortgage with them, and they can shop for insurance right then and there on their website. And then this will bring new customers to the insurance company. Now, another effort since this has been implemented is to add artificial intelligence. I believe they are using now Einstein for they're feeding insurance quotes and insurance policies into Einstein to get back recommendations for upselling, for better customer handling, customer support. And this is very interesting to see it happen from such a small beginning step that we had back in 2017. Now, the other details about this effort is that in 2017, we could not see all those opportunities: artificial intelligence, co-branding, expanding, increasing flood insurance sales. We could not see it back then because it was such a small effort in comparison. We were just trying to integrate uh, the insurance wizard with Safeco API. Now we see the results of that effort, and it was, I say it was a small effort, but it was very difficult because insurance is not something that everyone knows about. So at that time, I had to learn a lot about insurance. And in the beginning, it is a dry subject to learn about. And I had to understand that the Accord XML with all those options and convert that into a data integration written in Boomi and in Salesforce, and deal with the APIs with CoreLogic and LexisNexis. So this is what a technical architect is able to do. He can dive in and figure out stuff that maybe some other people will not have the experience or the knowledge to dive into. So that's my presentation, and thank you for watching.